Whispers in Champagne. Olivia Chen smoothed the front of her champagne silk dress, her engagement ring catching the light from the crystal chandeliers above. As Manhattan's most sought-after event planner, she had orchestrated countless perfect moments for others. Tonight was finally hers. The rooftop garden of the Celestial had been transformed into a fairy tale setting. Twinkling lights cascaded from pergolas, white roses and baby's breath adorned every table, and the Manhattan skyline provided a glittering backdrop. 70 of their closest friends and family members mingled, celebrating her engagement to James Sullivan, the charming hospitality executive she'd met 3 years ago. "You've outdone yourself," James whispered, his breath warm against her ear as he slipped his arm around her waist. "Everyone's impressed." Olivia smiled, leaning into his embrace. "I had help. Your mother's florist connections saved us thousands." "Always the practical one," James laughed, kissing her temple before being pulled away by his college roommates for another round of congratulatory shots. Olivia watched him go, admiring how he commanded attention in any room. His confident stride, the way his custom navy suit accentuated his athletic build, the easy charm that had first drawn her to him. She felt a familiar flutter of disbelief that in 6 months they would be husband and wife. "Champagne, miss?" A server offered a tray of flutes. "Thank you," she said, accepting a glass. As she turned to survey the party, her gaze caught on an unfamiliar face. No, not unfamiliar. Unwelcome. Victoria Winters. James's ex-girlfriend from before they'd met. Her heart-shaped face framed by cascading auburn waves. Her emerald dress hugging curves that had once been featured in a regional modeling campaign. The woman James had sworn he hadn't spoken to in years. Olivia's champagne suddenly tasted bitter. She set it down, her mind racing. Perhaps Victoria had come with a mutual friend. It wasn't impossible. Their social circles overlapped in places. "Olivia, the party is divine." Her best friend May appeared at her side, squeezing her hand. "Your mother can't stop crying happy tears." "May," Olivia whispered, "is that Victoria Winters by the bar?" May followed her gaze, brows furrowing. "I think so. Wasn't she James's ex? The one from his business school days?" "The very one," Olivia confirmed, trying to keep her voice even. "Did you know she was invited?" "No," May's expression darkened. "Did you?" Olivia shook her head, watching as Victoria made her way through the crowd, stopping to chat with James's friends as if she belonged there. As if she knew them all. "I'm sure there's an explanation," Olivia said, more to herself than to May. "James wouldn't—" Her words died in her throat as she watched Victoria approach the bar where James stood. He looked up, his face lighting with recognition, not surprise. He leaned down, brushing a kiss against Victoria's cheek, lingering just a moment too long. Victoria laughed at something he said, her hand resting on his forearm with familiar ease. Olivia felt the room tilt slightly. "Hey!" May's voice was firm. "Don't jump to conclusions. Go talk to him." Olivia nodded, drawing a steadying breath. The night was young, the toast wasn't for another hour, and she had waited too long for this moment to let it unravel now. She would simply ask James directly. After all, their relationship was built on trust and honesty. Wasn't it? Shadows between glasses. Olivia circled the party like a satellite in unstable orbit, unable to approach James directly as he remained surrounded by friends and, increasingly often, Victoria. Each time she tried to make her way to him, another guest would intercept her with congratulations or questions about wedding plans. "You must be thrilled," said James's Aunt Meredith, clasping Olivia's hands. "He's finally settling down after all those wild years." Olivia smiled politely, though the words stung. James had always described his past as nothing serious before her. Yet the way Victoria moved through the party suggested otherwise, comfortable with his family, exchanging knowing glances with his college friends. From across the room, Olivia watched Victoria lean close to James, whispering something that made him throw his head back in laughter. She recognized that laugh, deep, uninhibited, the one he reserved for inside jokes and private moments. Victoria's fingers brushed against his as she passed him a tumbler of amber liquid. "Macallan 18. his favorite whiskey that Olivia had special ordered for the occasion. "You're staring." May appeared at her side, offering a water glass. "Drink this instead of that death grip you have on your champagne." Olivia released her white-knuckled hold on the flute. "They keep touching." "Maybe it's innocent," May offered, though her tone lacked conviction. "Then why didn't he tell me she was coming?" Olivia's voice cracked slightly. "And why did he tell me they hadn't spoken in years?" The answer materialized before her eyes. Victoria pulled out her phone, showing James something on the screen. Their heads bent together, faces illuminated by the blue glow. James's expression softened with unmistakable intimacy. "I need air," Olivia murmured, slipping away from May toward the less crowded side of the rooftop. She stood at the railing, the cool October breeze cutting through her thin dress. Below, Manhattan continued its relentless pace, unconcerned with her unraveling fairy tale. A subtle click of a camera shutter made her turn. A man with kind eyes lowered his camera. "Sorry, the skyline behind you was perfect." "Marcus Reed, right? Our photographer?" He nodded. "The very same. Though I should be capturing the happy couple, not just the bride-to-be looking." "Looking what?" she challenged. "Like someone who's seeing things clearly for the first time," he replied gently. Before she could respond, James's best man David clinked a knife against his glass. "If everyone could gather round." "Time for toasts to the happy couple." Olivia's stomach dropped. She wasn't ready. Not with her thoughts in chaos and her heart splitting along fault lines she'd ignored for months. James materialized at her side, his smile picture-perfect. "Ready, sweetheart?" He guided her toward the center of the gathering, his hand pressed against the small of her back. "Is Victoria a +1?" Olivia whispered as they walked. "Or did you invite her?" His step faltered, almost imperceptible. "Let's talk about this later." "So you did invite her?" James squeezed her waist, a warning. "Smile. Everyone's watching." As they reached the small podium set up for speeches, Olivia noticed Victoria standing near the front, her expression a mixture of smugness and something like pity. In that moment, with crystalline clarity, Olivia understood everything. The lies, the late nights, the password changes, the weekends away. David finished his toast with a flourish, raising his glass. "And now let's hear from our beautiful bride-to-be." James kissed her cheek before stepping aside, his lips grazing her skin with practiced precision. "Empty." Olivia stepped forward, taking the microphone with trembling fingers, looking out at the expectant faces of their guests. Her prepared speech sat like lead in her pocket, filled with promises she now knew rested on foundations of sand. A toast to honesty, the microphone felt cold in Olivia's hand. 70 pairs of eyes watched her expectantly, her parents beaming with pride. James's family appraising as always. Victoria, with that slight curl at the corner of her lips that suggested she knew something no one else did. Except now. Olivia knew too. "When I was little," Olivia began, her voice surprisingly steady, "my grandmother told me that love isn't about grand gestures or perfect moments. It's about truth." She paused, meeting James's eyes. "She said we should measure love not by what makes us feel good, but by what makes us better." A few appreciative murmurs rippled through the crowd. James smiled, relaxed now, thinking she would follow the script of the perfect, grateful fiancé. "I've spent my career creating beautiful illusions for other people," she continued. "Perfect centerpieces, flawless timing, immaculate aesthetics. But tonight I find myself wondering about the difference between decoration and substance." James's smile faltered. May, standing near the back, gave an almost imperceptible nod of encouragement. "James," Olivia turned to him directly, "when you proposed, you said you wanted a lifetime of honesty between us. You said secrets were poison to love." Her voice softened. "I believed you." The crowd grew still, sensing the shift in atmosphere. James stepped forward slightly, as if to interrupt, but Olivia continued. "I'd like to thank everyone who came here tonight with honest hearts to celebrate with us. Your love means everything." Her gaze drifted to Victoria, who had the decency to look down at her shoes. "And I'd like to thank those who came with other intentions, because you've shown me the difference between fantasy and reality." A confused murmur swept through the guests. James's mother frowned. His father shifted uncomfortably, and his friends exchanged glances. I've learned that sometimes the most honest thing we can do is acknowledge when something isn't right. Olivia slipped the 3-carat diamond ring from her finger. And sometimes the bravest thing we can do is walk away from what we thought we wanted. She placed the ring gently on the podium, the diamond catching the light one final time. To new beginnings, she raised her champagne glass, and to loving ourselves enough to demand truth, not just pretty lies. The silence was absolute. James stood frozen, his face a mask of shock and dawning realization that the script had been irrevocably altered. "Olivia," he hissed, reaching for her arm, but she stepped back. "Don't," she said quietly. "You've said enough with your silence." With remarkable composure, she walked away from the podium, through the parted crowd, past her stunned parents, past James's furious mother, past Victoria's suddenly pale face. The weight that had been crushing her chest all evening lifted with each step. As she reached the rooftop exit, she heard the explosion of voices behind her. Questions, exclamations, James's attempts at damage control. None of it mattered now. Marcus Reed stood near the door, camera lowered, watching her with quiet admiration. That was necessary, she finished for him, surprising herself with the certainty in her voice. Outside the venue, the October night embraced her with cool air that filled her lungs like freedom. For the first time in months, possibly years, she felt completely present in her own life. The fairy tale had ended, but perhaps the true story was just beginning. Night air freedom. The service elevator descended in merciful silence. Olivia leaned against the metal wall, eyes closed, listening to the mechanical hum that drowned out the chaos she'd left behind. The enormity of what she'd just done hadn't fully registered. Walking away from 3 years, an engagement, and the carefully constructed future she'd planned. When the doors opened to the hotel's back entrance, she stepped out into the alley, grateful for the solitude. The night sky was obscured by Manhattan's glow, but she felt its vastness anyway, a sudden expanse of possibility where before had been only a narrow, predetermined path. "Olivia." She turned to find Marcus following her, camera bag slung over his shoulder. "I should probably be fired," he said with a self-deprecating smile, abandoning a client's event. "Technically, I abandoned it first," she replied, surprised by the small laugh that escaped her. "You're just documenting the aftermath. Are you okay?" His question was simple, direct, without the judgment or pity she dreaded. "No," she admitted, "but I think I will be." A gust of wind sent a shiver through her, the silk dress offering little protection against the autumn chill. Without hesitation, Marcus shrugged off his charcoal blazer and offered it to her. "You don't have to." "Please. Professional photographers are always overheated anyway. All that running around for the perfect shot." She accepted the jacket, wrapping it around her shoulders. It carried the faint scent of sandalwood and something distinctly human, comforting in its simplicity. "I don't know where to go," she confessed. Her apartment was filled with James's things. Her parents would demand explanations she wasn't ready to give. Hotels required composure she didn't possess. "Coffee?" Marcus suggested. "There's an all-night diner 2 blocks east." No questions asked, just mediocre pie and excellent coffee. The suggestion was so ordinary, so removed from the drama of the evening, that it felt like a lifeline. "Lead the way." They walked in companionable silence, the city's nightlife pulsing around them, couples strolling hand in hand, taxis rushing by, late-night workers trudging home. Olivia felt simultaneously invisible and exposed, as if she'd shed a skin and hadn't yet grown a new one. At the diner, a classic chrome and neon establishment, they slid into a worn red booth. A waitress with tired eyes took their order without comment. 2 coffees, 1 slice of apple pie, 2 forks. "I've photographed over 200 engagements," Marcus said after their coffee arrived. "Yours is the first I've seen end during the party. Is that judgment I hear?" She wrapped her hands around the warm mug. "Admiration," he corrected. It takes courage to choose truth over comfort. Something about his words unlocked the emotional dam she'd been holding back. Tears filled her eyes, not of regret or sorrow, but of release. "I loved him," she whispered. "Or I loved who I thought he was." Marcus reached across the table, not quite touching her hand, but close enough to offer connection. Sometimes the hardest truth to face is that what we love isn't real. The pie arrived, steam rising from the flaky crust. Ordinary, tangible, real. "I don't even know you," Olivia said, wiping away a tear. "Why are you being so kind?" Marcus considered this, his expression thoughtful. "I spend my life capturing moments. Most are performances, people posing how they think they should look rather than how they actually feel." He gestured toward his camera bag. "Tonight I saw something authentic. It reminded me why I became a photographer in the first place." As they shared the pie in the fluorescent glow of the diner, surrounded by night shift workers and insomniacs, Olivia felt the first fragile tendrils of peace unfurling in her chest. Not happiness, not yet, but the quiet certainty that comes from choosing one's own path, however uncertain. Her phone buzzed repeatedly, James, May, her mother, but she let it ring into silence. Tomorrow would be time enough for explanations and decisions. Tonight belonged to this strange, unexpected freedom and the gentle company of a man who asked for nothing but her truth. New reflections. 6 months later, Olivia stood in the doorway of an art gallery in Chelsea, watching as strangers studied photographs on pristine white walls. Her photographs, or rather photographs of her, captured by Marcus on that fateful night and in the tender, honest days that followed. The exhibition, titled Authentic, had opened to unexpected critical acclaim. The centerpiece was a triptych, Olivia at the engagement party podium with fire in her eyes, Olivia in the diner that night, tears streaming down her face as she laughed at something off camera, and Olivia at dawn on the Brooklyn promenade, face turned toward the rising sun, exhausted but unburdened. "They're responding to your courage, not my skill," Marcus had insisted, when the first reviews called the images breathtakingly intimate and a masterclass in emotional storytelling. The aftermath of her toast had been messy, painful, and ultimately liberating. James had alternated between desperate apologies and bitter accusations. Victoria had disappeared that very night, having served her unwitting purpose as catalyst. Friends had taken sides, family had questioned her sanity, and social media had briefly buzzed with watered-down versions of the truth. Through it all, Marcus had remained a steady presence, first as a friend who understood the value of silence, later as something more. Their relationship had developed with deliberate slowness, each step taken with open eyes and honest words. "There you are." Marcus appeared beside her, 2 glasses of champagne in hand. "Hiding from your admirers?" "Observing," she corrected, accepting the glass. "It's strange seeing yourself through other people's eyes, especially when they're seeing you at your most vulnerable." He studied her face. "Any regrets about letting me show these?" Olivia shook her head. "They tell a true story. That's what matters." Across the gallery, she spotted a familiar figure. James, standing before the centerpiece triptych, his expression unreadable. She hadn't seen him since the final exhausting conversation where they'd divided their shared possessions and memories. "Did you invite him?" she asked softly. "No," Marcus admitted. "The exhibition was announced in the Times last week. He must have seen it." As if sensing their gaze, James turned, meeting Olivia's eyes across the room. For a moment, the gallery seemed to hold its breath. Then, almost imperceptibly, he nodded. Acknowledgement, perhaps even respect, before turning and walking out the door. "Are you okay?" Marcus asked, his hand finding hers. "Yes," she realized with quiet certainty. "I really am." Her event planning business had shifted focus in the months since the toast, specializing now in authentic celebrations rather than picture-perfect fantasies. Her clients came seeking truth in their important moments, inspired by the story that had somehow spread throughout Manhattan social circles despite her never discussing it publicly. "I have something for you," Marcus said, guiding her to a small photograph in the corner of the gallery. Apart from the main exhibition, it showed a simple moment, Olivia sitting cross-legged on his apartment floor, surrounded by prints, hair piled messily atop her head, completely absorbed in her work. Beside it hung a small red sold tag. "First piece to go," he said proudly. The buyer said it was the most honest depiction of contentment they'd ever seen. "Who bought it?" she asked, leaning into his warmth. "Me," he grinned. "I'm not letting anyone else have it." Olivia turned to face him fully, struck by the simple truth of them, two people who had found each other through honesty rather than perfection, who saw each other clearly and loved what they saw anyway. "What?" he asked, noticing her expression. "Just thinking about toasts," she smiled, "and truths, and how sometimes they lead you exactly where you need to be." Outside the gallery windows, Manhattan continued its relentless pace, unconcerned with their small moment of connection. But inside, in the quiet space between them, Olivia felt the certainty of a different kind of fairy tale, one built not on fantasy, but on the beautiful, imperfect truth of two people choosing each other, eyes wide open every single day.